10 disgusting sexual behaviors of narcissists you should know about. Have you ever felt something unsettling in a relationship, like a lingering feeling that you're being manipulated or used, especially in intimate settings? If you've ever had the unfortunate experience of dealing with a narcissist, you may have noticed that they bring a dark and twisted dynamic into sexual relationships. What often begins with charm and intensity can quickly turn into disturbing behaviors that leave you emotionally and psychologically drained. In today's article, we're diving deep into the hidden and manipulative sexual habits of narcissists that you absolutely need to know about. Trust me, this is going to be eye-opening and could explain so much about your past experiences, or help you spot red flags going forward. Before we get started, I want to invite you to join this growing community where we tackle these important topics head-on. If this resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future insights that could help you navigate your relationships and protect your peace. Alright, let's dive in. First things first, narcissists aren't like the average partner. Their sexual behaviors are rarely about connection or mutual satisfaction. Instead, they use intimacy as a tool to control, manipulate, and feed their own fragile egos. Narcissists see sex as an extension of their power play, another arena where they can dominate or exploit their partner. It's important to keep in mind that their ultimate goal is always self-serving, no matter how affectionate or attentive they appear in the beginning. So let's take a closer look at these disturbing sexual patterns that reveal the true nature of a narcissist. 1. Love bombing with overwhelming intensity. The beginning of a relationship with a narcissist often feels like something out of a fairy tale. It starts with a phase known as love bombing, and during this time, the narcissist will go to extraordinary lengths to make you feel like you found the perfect partner. They'll shower you with endless compliments, grand declarations of love, and displays of affection so intense that it feels almost otherworldly. You may feel like they see you as the most special, unique person they've ever met, and their attention becomes intoxicating. Their sexual energy during this stage is no different. It can feel like they are utterly consumed by their desire for you. The chemistry between you might seem explosive and unlike anything you've experienced before, leaving you breathless and head over heels. However, beneath the surface of this passion lies something far more calculated and sinister. Love bombing is not about genuine connection or love. It's a carefully orchestrated tactic designed to pull you in and make you dependent on their approval and attention. They overwhelm you with their affection so quickly and intensely that it becomes difficult to think clearly or recognize any red flags. You might feel like you've been swept off your feet, but in reality, they're pulling you into a trap. Once they've secured your attachment and hooked you emotionally, the dynamics in the relationship begin to shift. The person who seemed so passionate and attentive begins to change, and that fiery intensity often transforms into something entirely self-serving, manipulative, and one-sided. 2. Turning sex into a transactional exchange. For a narcissist, intimacy isn't about two people coming together to share a moment of connection and mutual satisfaction. Instead, they view sex as a transaction, something that serves a specific purpose for their ego and control, rather than an act of love. Their motives during intimacy are rarely about genuine emotional closeness. Instead, they see sexual interactions as opportunities to gain something: validation, control, dominance, or a temporary ego boost. You may notice that your own needs, desires, or comfort are largely ignored. Instead of a shared experience, intimacy with a narcissist often becomes performative, where your role is to fulfill their expectations or desires. Over time, This dynamic takes a toll on you emotionally and mentally. You might start to feel obligated to engage in intimacy, even when you don't want to, simply to keep the peace, avoid conflict, or win back their approval. This pattern can become exhausting as the narcissist subtly, or overtly, reinforces the idea that your value in the relationship is tied to what you can give them sexually. Over time, the relationship leaves you feeling used, degraded, and disconnected from yourself. You may even start to feel like an object rather than an equal partner, which is a direct result of their inability to see intimacy as something meaningful and shared. 3. The devaluation that follows intimacy. One of the most disorienting and painful aspects of being with a narcissist is the emotional shift that often occurs after intimacy. What should be a time of emotional connection and closeness can quickly turn into a confusing and hurtful experience. After an intimate encounter, you may notice the narcissist pulling away, becoming distant, or acting as though they're suddenly uninterested in you. They might withdraw emotionally, give you the silent treatment, or offer hurtful criticisms, leaving you feeling rejected and unworthy. This abrupt switch can feel like whiplash, and it often makes you question what you did wrong or why their attitude toward you changed so suddenly. You may find yourself overanalyzing the encounter, blaming yourself, or trying to figure out how to get back into their good graces. But this devaluation is not a reflection of you or your actions. It's yet another manipulation tactic. The narcissist uses this behavior to keep you emotionally unbalanced and insecure, which makes you easier to control. By creating a cycle where they build you up and tear you down, they ensure that you remain vulnerable to their influence. This unpredictable behavior is deliberate, as the narcissist thrives on the power that comes from keeping you guessing and constantly seeking their approval. 4. Infidelity and the constant need for new validation. The narcissist's insatiable need for attention and validation often drives them to seek out other people, whether through emotional affairs, casual flirtations, or outright infidelity. No matter how much love, attention, or devotion you give them, it will never be enough to satisfy their endless craving for admiration. This is because their ego is like a bottomless pit. It constantly demands more, and the narcissist believes that new sources of validation will temporarily fill the void. They often justify their wandering behavior by blaming you, saying you don't meet their needs, or accusing you of being inadequate in some way. These excuses are manipulative attempts to deflect responsibility while simultaneously making you feel like the problem lies with you. When the narcissist seeks out new supply, it's not because they genuinely care for or connect with these other people. It's about the thrill of novelty, the chase, and the external validation they receive. You might notice them being flirtatious, secretive, or dismissive of your feelings when confronted. This behavior creates deep feelings of betrayal, insecurity, and inadequacy, as you begin to question whether you'll ever be enough for them. The truth is, no one ever will be, because their need for admiration is insatiable and never-ending. 5. Withholding intimacy as a tool for punishment and control. While narcissists can use intimacy to reel you in, they're just as capable of weaponizing it against you to maintain their power. Withholding affection, including sexual intimacy, becomes a tool they use to punish you, manipulate you, and assert their control over the relationship. If you've questioned their behavior, set boundaries, or done something they perceive as disobedient, they may suddenly turn cold and distant. They'll withhold intimacy as a way of reinforcing the idea that they control the relationship dynamic. It's not about a genuine loss of interest in you. Instead, it's a calculated move to make you feel rejected and desperate for their attention. By denying you affection, they send a clear message. Your worth and ability to receive love are dependent on how well you conform to their expectations. Over time, this dynamic can leave you feeling deeply rejected and anxious, as you internalize the belief that you must constantly please them to earn back their affection. This cycle of withholding and rewarding creates an unhealthy power imbalance, where you're left chasing their approval while they remain firmly in control. It's a cruel tactic designed to keep you feeling small, powerless, and at their mercy. 6. Using shame and humiliation in the bedroom. Narcissists often weaponize intimacy as a way to tear down your confidence and self-esteem, turning what should be a vulnerable and loving experience into one that leaves you feeling insecure and degraded. They might criticize your body, pointing out perceived flaws, or making hurtful comments that stick with you long after the moment has passed. These remarks are rarely spontaneous. They are calculated to chip away at your self-worth and make you more reliant on their approval. In addition to criticizing your appearance, they may also belittle your sexual performance, comparing you to past partners, or suggesting that you're not good enough. This comparison creates a constant sense of inadequacy, where you begin to feel like you're never measuring up to their expectations. Humiliation can also be introduced during intimate moments as a way for the narcissist to assert dominance and reinforce their power over you. They may engage in behaviors or make degrading comments specifically designed to make you feel embarrassed or small, often disguising it as a joke or just being honest. This type of behavior is not about sexual connection or mutual pleasure. For the narcissist, sex is simply another tool they can use to manipulate, control, and establish superiority over you. By making you feel insecure, they ensure you remain dependent on their validation to feel good about yourself, trapping you in a vicious cycle of seeking approval from someone who is actively tearing you down. 7. Pushing boundaries without consent. Narcissists often exhibit a blatant disregard for your comfort, boundaries, and autonomy in intimate situations. They may constantly push your sexual boundaries, pressuring you into doing things that you're not comfortable with. Rather than respecting your feelings or limits, they might guilt-trip you into compliance, making you feel like you owe them something. For instance, they might claim that they need certain acts to feel satisfied or fulfilled, implying that it's your responsibility to cater to their every desire. If you hesitate, they often resort to manipulative language, accusing you of being boring or not adventurous enough, which can leave you feeling ashamed or inadequate. This manipulation creates a toxic cycle where your boundaries are repeatedly disregarded and your resistance is met with punishment, guilt, or emotional withdrawal. Over time, you may start to second-guess your own instincts, wondering if you're overreacting or being unreasonable for wanting to maintain your limits. However, the issue is not with you. It's with the narcissist's refusal to respect your autonomy and emotional well-being. They operate as though their desires are the only ones that matter, ignoring the fundamental concept of consent. This lack of regard for your boundaries is not only selfish, but deeply damaging, as it erodes your sense of safety and trust within the relationship. 8. Obsession with pornography and fantasy. Narcissists often have a warped perception of intimacy, driven by an obsession with pornography, unrealistic fantasies, or idealized notions of what sex should be. These distorted views lead them to prioritize fantasy over genuine emotional connection, leaving you feeling like you're always competing with an unattainable ideal. They may spend excessive amounts of time consuming explicit material, further deepening the disconnect between real intimacy and their expectations. As a result, they often compare you to unrealistic standards set by these fantasies, openly or subtly suggesting that you don't measure up. These comparisons can leave you feeling inadequate, self-conscious, and as though you'll never be enough to satisfy them. In many cases, narcissists project these fantasies onto you, pressuring you to fulfill roles or engage in behaviors that make you uncomfortable. They may demand things that cross your boundaries or criticize you for not being open-minded enough if you refuse. This disconnect reveals their inability to engage in intimacy in a healthy and respectful way. Instead of seeing you as a partner with feelings, needs, and limits, they treat you as an extension of their own desires. Over time, their obsession with fantasy diminishes any chance of real emotional closeness, replacing intimacy with a superficial and one-sided dynamic that leaves you feeling unseen and unvalued. 9. Triangulation and making you feel replaceable. Triangulation is one of the narcissist's favorite tactics for maintaining control, and they are experts at using it to manipulate your emotions. In the context of intimacy, triangulation often involves bringing up ex-partners, flirting with others, or dropping subtle hints that someone else is more desirable or better than you. This behavior creates a toxic sense of competition, where you begin to feel as though you must constantly fight to earn their affection and approval. By making you feel like you're replaceable, the narcissist keeps you on edge and desperate for their validation, ensuring that they remain in a position of power. The comments or actions may start small, a casual mention of someone attractive or a comparison to an ex. But over time, the narcissist escalates these behaviors to amplify your insecurity. They may deliberately flirt with others in front of you, praise someone else's qualities, or imply that their needs are being better met elsewhere. This manipulation is not accidental. It's designed to make you question your worth and feel as though you're constantly falling short. The more insecure you become, the easier it is for the narcissist to control you, as you grow increasingly dependent on their approval to feel secure. Unfortunately, this dynamic is deeply damaging to your self-esteem, as it reinforces the idea that you are never good enough and must compete for basic love and respect. 10. Sexual coercion and gaslighting. Perhaps the most insidious and dangerous behavior in the narcissist's toolkit is their use of sexual coercion and gaslighting. They often manipulate you into intimacy by twisting reality, making you feel guilty for saying no, or denying your right to set boundaries. For example, they may pressure you to engage in intimacy when you're not comfortable, framing it as your duty to meet their needs, or claiming that a lack of compliance means you don't care about them. If you resist, they might accuse you of being selfish, cold, or unloving, turning the blame back on you and creating a toxic cycle of guilt and compliance. When you express discomfort or try to assert your boundaries, the narcissist's response is equally manipulative. They may dismiss your feelings, minimizing your concerns and making you feel as though you're overreacting. Statements like "you're too sensitive" or "it's not a big deal" are common gaslighting tactics used to invalidate your reality. In extreme cases, they might even deny that your boundaries were violated, leaving you feeling confused and questioning your own judgment. Over time, this erosion of your autonomy can have devastating effects, as it strips you of your sense of safety, self-trust, and control over your own body. This form of manipulation is not just harmful, it's a complete violation of your emotional and physical well-being. In conclusion, dealing with a narcissist in intimate settings can be emotionally devastating. Their behaviors are rooted in manipulation, control, and a lack of genuine connection. While they may seem charming or passionate at first, their true nature inevitably reveals itself through these disturbing patterns. If you've experienced any of these behaviors, it's important to recognize that you are not to blame. Narcissists thrive on exploiting others, but awareness is the first step to breaking free from their toxic grip. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support this channel and help others gain clarity in their relationships. Let me know in the comments if you've encountered these behaviors or if you have any thoughts to share. Remember, you are not alone in this journey, and together we can spread awareness and healing. Take care, and see you in the next video.